So folks, the eviction continues. Even this LED screen is not going to be spared, we've been told. The fence is being brought down. The sycamore tree, 3 of the sycamore trees have been brought down. And this operator is still on the phone. He's been told, he's been directed what to break and what not to break. So the LDA officer you see there is removing the Liberian flag, and the operator turns. So this is on a normal day, the Totman Boulevard. This particular stretch of the road would have seen a lot of vehicular traffic. You would have seen vehicles headed towards Painesville and headed towards town. But the Liberia National Police on yesterday issued a traffic advisory that all vehicles coming from Painesville towards town will be diverted through the Catholic Junction onto the Old Road and exit from the Old Road main junction. And all vehicles coming from town towards Painesville will be diverted through the Old Road from the Calando end and exit from the Catholic Junction. Hence, you don't see any vehicular movement aside from vehicles that have been given the right of way. We do see a tow truck is coming. Whether the tow truck is going to remove that pickup that we saw at the Munapeno Vocational Institute. We'll follow it up to bring you all of the proceedings. But you see the officers of the LNP and the other members of the joint security, they are sitting and they've not been met with any sort of resistance whatsoever. Yesterday, the chairman of the CDC, Janga Ko, called on his partisans to be present here at the party headquarters at 1 p.m. But so far, we've not seen any. This excavator operator is moving from tree to tree, structure to structure, and now he's moving to another tree. These are the remnants of the famous sycamore tree. There's no CDC emblem here. It's down. There is no gate here. It's down. There is no sycamore tree or sycamore trees. They are all down. The sycamore trees have fallen. The operator is doing everything possible to break down the arena. The headquarters or former headquarters of the CDC is like a ground where a natural disaster ravished. Others are being allowed to take items from what used to be the merchandise store just at the main entrance. So this tow truck is coming, presumably to get that pickup truck out. So the tow truck, as presumed, is going to get that Mitsubishi pickup from the way. The sound of metal clanging against metal is all you can hear this morning along the Totman Boulevard, precisely the repossessed headquarters of the CDC. the debris, I'm sure others would take advantage of to take to construction sites, swampy lands and the rest, roofing sheets, bottles and the rest. If this place is now well secured, will be scavenged by others. There you see chairs. So that used to be an entertainment center called Welcome to Lofa Spot. So that spot was called Lofa Spot. So Lofa Spot is down. You can hear the sound of bottles as they crack and break under the sheer force, the brute force of this excavator. After bringing down all of the sycamore trees, he is moving from place to place. There are those who are still trying to salvage what little that they can. This spot is called Nobody Farm Pass Money. The spot called Nobody Farm Pass Money is next. Invisible Element is also next. She's doing her best to take as many crates as possible. See, never dry. Mr. Dempster is being put in possession of his property by the court. The Congress for Democratic Change is being evicted, and all structures deemed as unwanted by the owner is being removed.
Been here as the coupled demolition continues. So far so good. There have been discovery also of lethal weapons.
So all this started at about 5 a.m. this morning, when officers of the Joint Security of Liberia started to move in. See, never dry. It's down. So before all of the excavation and demolition works began, officers of the Joint Security ensured that there were no occupants in any of this place. So up next is welcome to Chupin Spot. So Chupin Spot is down. It's even going for foundations. These are the branches of the famous sycamore tree. It's down. Some of these wires are live wires, so I cannot walk through. So I'll just show you from a safe distance. But these are the branches of the famous sycamore tree. He's seemingly done with this location and he's moving to the next. So the pickup has been removed. The white Mitsubishi pickup has been removed, and whether or not the operator is going to return to demolishing the now reduced to rubble Munam Vocational Institute, we cannot tell. But what you're looking at is just remnants after the demolition exercise by the excavator rider, the operator of the excavator. You can still see some executive chairs there, the upstairs of what used to be the headquarters of the CDC. He's even bringing down light poles and the rest. He's clearing a path for himself, churning in, chewing into, and breaking anything in his path, including the sycamore tree. He brought that down. Now he's moving back to the severely demolished Monampeno Vocational Institute. He's back on this. On that wall, you can see it says, "You are always beautiful." That wall has an inscription that says, "You are always beautiful," and it's about to go down. He's receiving a call again.
Yeah, 2 months back was a protest that brought lots of Liberians out, obviously. Well, it might not, might not
Cheers.
take that,
Reduced to rubble.
As a mass protest, if you may think. But
Glasses,
several Liberians
window
out there,
panes,
touring
air conditioners,
touring
everything
several weeks
that
across
once
the city.
stood as this structure is being brought down. The operator takes a brief pause as he receives a call, and what next with his demolition? He's back to it. He's back at it. That wall that says, "You You are always beautiful goes down. It's been crushed.
Excavator still digging in.
And he's climbing further on top of the rubble pile that he's creating. Climbing on top of his own creation to get closer and closer to the last bit of this building. The sheer weight, the sheer magnitude and power of his powerful front end. He's climbing on top of the rubble. He's breaking down decks, chairs, roofing sheets, pillars upon pillars, and the rest.
In accordance and cooperation along with the police.
The demolisher, I call it.
This demolition.
The yellow demolisher.
Most people
Or this is the wake of his involvement in this process. He went for the ark first, symbolically breaking his way into now the former headquarters of the CDC. He then went for the Monapenon Vocational Institute, with every blow bringing it and reducing it to rubble. He wasn't finished. He then went for the main headquarters building and broke a great portion of that. He moved to the iconic stage. On that very stage, former President Weah cried. On that very stage, acceptance speeches were made. On that very stage, rallying calls were made. That stage is reduced all but rubble. Then he went for the sycamore tree, and you can see him without any fear of favor, sweating though in his AC cabin, removing his top jacket to display his Louis Vuitton shirt. This is the massive demolisher. He's coming for the store. This is the merchandise store, and the yellow demolisher moves in, honking to let them know that he's coming. Whatever they can salvage, they are taking away. And this is what he's coming for. He honks to clear his path and looks at his next target. And that, he gets a call again. They're telling him what to do. Is it going? Yes, it is. There you have it. There you have it. He's going for the pillars and breaking it from under. He attacks it from under and from above. That pillar is going to cave in and it's gone. The stairs will go next. There you go. Even crates are not being spared. The top is going. You can feel the ground tremble. He goes at it again. As this is happening to the CDC today, as this has happened to thousands of Liberians who've been victims of eviction exercises, court-ordered eviction exercises and demolition, this is not just a wake-up call to political institutions. Even this light pole is not being spared. He has brought that pole down, trying to make way for himself. A pole that has boldly inscribed on it, "We are 2023." So this is about the eviction and demolition process in our country. So if you're occupying a property or you're buying a property or whatever the case is, you have to make sure that you are the legitimate owner, because if you go into a litigation and you lose that case, whether you've built a 20-story building on that property or a skyscraper that touches the sky, and the owner who has been put in possession of their property by the courts legally refuses to have your structure on their property, if you're unable to remove your structure or your belongings or whatever it is, and that person deems them not as important or not part of the plan that they've got for their land, they will break it down. And we've seen thousands of Liberians being made homeless because of these cases. And these cases are coming in the country in their droves, because now we've had a lengthy period of peace. And many property owners who probably might have left the country or for some reasons were unable to have gone through the court process, and now that we're enjoying a long period of peace, are making use of the court process. You just don't want to be a victim, because from individual homes to business centers to political party headquarters, as we're seeing now, it's not spared or discriminated against by the law. I was at a demolition exercise along this very Congo town road, along the Totman Boulevard, around Catholic Hospital, where thousands of residents were made homeless because one family was put in possession of over 10 acres of land that spanned from the main Catholic junction all the way to the beach. People were rendered homeless. This is all that remains of the famous sycamore tree. This iconic tree is no more, uprooted to the core by the yellow demolisher. A lot of stories, unproven stories, I want to call them, about the famous sycamore tree. But one thing is for sure, This used to be the most famous tree in Liberia. All of these properties that are being demolished today took years upon years and thousands of dollars to have been constructed. With every blow from this excavator, it crumbles. Steel rods are being bent into different forms. Vehicles are now being allowed to ply the Totman Boulevard, as you can see, as the officers have deemed it safe for vehicular movement. The destroyer is still at it. Flexing his hydraulic strength, ravaging through, churning at, and climbing on top of everything in his path. You can see the sheer strength of that pillar. He's trying and trying again. For those on board vehicles that are now being allowed access, they don't want to miss the opportunity of looking at what is unfolding. As they pass by, they themselves are looking at what is unfolding. This now is the former headquarters of the CDC. He's bringing it down, finally. The final pillar that once stood as a magnificent entrance to the CDC's headquarters. It is down. The yellow demolisher leaves debris in its wake. The early morning, Saturday morning in Liberia, is being greeted by the sound of this heavy-duty machine destroying whatever is being instructed to. Debris upon debris. The question many have asked themselves: how did we get here? How did the CDC, Liberia's biggest opposition party and once ruling party, allowed itself to be put in such a position? He's even going for coconut trees. It's like this operator has got something against trees. He's going for coconut trees. I think he's been instructed to get rid of all trees. Even coconut trees are not spared. So the operator is being talked to by the police, but he's saying he's got instructions as to what to bring down, and that's what he's going to bring down. He brought down the sycamore tree. As if that wasn't enough, he even went for the coconut tree, and now he's going for another tree. What does he have against trees? He's on the phone again. Probably he's been told that these trees should be spared. So I think the trees probably have been spared, having received a call. He's moving to another part. So one coconut tree was brought down, but apparently these other trees have been spared. He is moving now to another part of the headquarters. This is 4.23 acres of land that Dempster has been ordered by the court to be put in possession of. On a day of political rally, all of this place would have been crowded with seditionists, partisans, sympathizers, and ordinary Liberians who have just come to witness. But on today, this ground has been invaded by not the blue of the CDC, but the blue of the Liberia National Police. Not the gray or the khaki of the militants, but the khakis of the sheriffs from the court. The blacks are not being worn by the guys who provide security here. The black is being worn by officers of the LDEA. The color symbol and color schemes have changed hands. There is no chanting of political slogans. There is not a resistance in sight. All you can hear is the revving of the engine of that Long King excavator. He brought down the sycamore tree, and down it came. He went for the Monatech, and down it came. He then went for the headquarters of the CDC, and parts of it fell without a single resistance. He's going back for the headquarters, and this time around another portion, again another tree in his wake. In terms of monetary value, what this is going to cost the CDC were they to build structures on the headquarters, on the ground for headquarters again, all of what is going to cost is also part of what some political pundits have been saying. Whether or not, how long is it going to take the CDC to gather all of these assets that they are losing on today, not just the buildings, but the other assets that were within those buildings that have been destroyed. Even the latrine has not been spared.
deep in the center yard of the Congress for Democratic Change as the demolition process.
He goes back for the headquarters.
So,
Another tree goes down in his wake. So the demolition is at the request of the owner. Once you put in possession of your property by the sheriffs from the court, as an owner, you can determine what structures you want on your property, whether you want them left or you want them demolished. That is by the discretion of the owner. So the excavator operator is destroying or demolishing these buildings on the orders of the owner, Mr. Dempster. So the government's part is to make sure that the occupants are evicted and the owner is put in possession of his property. Whether the owner wants to use the presence of the police as a means of protection to carry out demolitions or come back another day, that is at the discretion or behest of the owner, Mr. Dempster.
of the Liberia Ethnic Network. My name is Hamsi.
It's going for the tiles on the walls. He takes a rest, a momentary pause, and he's back at So there is still a heavy presence of officers of the joint security. You see officers of the Liberian National Police, the LDEA, the Liberia Fire Service. They all present here. And we were here as early as 5 a.m. this morning when the joint security began to assemble and formed their lines. At about 5:30 a.m. this morning, they started to move in to this compound to put Mr. Dempster, as per the court order, in possession of 4.32 acres of land. There was a little resistance, not confrontational, but the guys had fire blazing before the main entrance. That wasn't a hindrance. The police moved in, fired tear gas to disperse whatever elements were present, and then called in the Liberian National Fire Service to quench the fire that was blazing before the main entrance. The process was on. The police announced their presence, said anybody on this compound should make themselves known and exit immediately. Accounted 4 persons who were arrested and taken away. One fellow remained in a house that is reportedly, and we cannot confirm that, but is reportedly said to be the residence of the Secretary General of the CDC, Jefferson Tamba Koji. After hours of banging on the door, he later made himself known, but said he was locked in by some unknown individuals who had left. When the police and sheriff made entry into that place, the sheriffs said they had found something and needed the police to come and take seize of that particular item. What did we see? Bullets in a case pack. Then 2 rifles were discovered. One that looks like a Winchester rifle and another that looks like a sniper rifle. They were taken away by the Liberian National Police. Petrol bombs were also discovered in another part. Then the police also took out another individual who was said to be hiding. The bulldozer made its way. First thing to go down was the ark that had boldly inscribed on it CDC. That was the first to have fallen to the sheer strength and might of the excavator. The excavator then moved to the Monapeno Vocational Technical Institute. What you see now is the remnants of that particular structure. Next was the main headquarters of the CDC. As you can see, he's still eating at that building and doing as much damage as he can. He then moved to the stage, broke down the stage, and then turned his sights to the sycamore tree. Didn't just break it down, but uprooted it from its core. Broke every other thing in his wake. Even water pipes have been bursted. and you can see water rushing or gushing out. The eviction, as announced by the IG of police, that they would provide support to the court as part of their legal mandate to put in possession Mr. Dempster of his property of 4.23 acres. There's been a lot of talk as to whether or not this would have gone down unopposed, but so far there's been no opposition. The only thing that is opposing this yellow demolition is the strength of some parts of this building where that has got strong pillars. It takes a longer time to break down, but parts that are only blocks and cement goes down with just one weight from his very strong front end. So folks, we remain posted here for a minute, and then I'll turn over to Nelson Collet, who is going to take you through the rest of the exercise. This Saturday morning, the 23rd of August. For some, it's quiet in their areas, but for those who are immediate neighbors and just in close proximity, you can hear the clanging and the hitting of the metals as this excavator makes its way to create rubble pile upon rubble pile. This school was once heralded as a game changer to provide vocational skill training set to Liberians and not only Cedicians. Today, this is what it has been turned into. Chairs that were once donated by the CDC USA National Women League. It's just, yeah, computers have been left in the damage. Executive offices have all been broken. He's moving to another part of the headquarters. He's going for another tree again. Long King East, that is the name of this excavator, LG6225E. It breaks down the tree. Sewing machines and the rest not spared. Just yesterday, a press conference was held in this exact building, and hours later, it is being reduced to rubble. He's bringing that wall down in huge portions. It's beginning to drizzle here. This is the beast that is carrying out such destruction. A Long King excavator, model number LGG25E. Is former President Weah's office that is being destroyed now. The office of the political leader, former President, His Excellency George Manneh Weah, goes down. The office of the youth chair goes down as well. Again, whether this exercise is going to serve as a rallying point for the CDC and its supporters, that look, we can go down as we have, lose our headquarters as we are doing today, but we can now rally ourselves and see how best we can rise up from the rubble and from the dirt. Or is this going to serve as a moment of complete disunity and a breakaway by some members of the CDC that this is the lowest moment in our party's history, and that we've lost the election, we've lost our party headquarters, we lost some of our influential party stalwarts, and what else can we lose again? So for the CDC, whether this is an opportunity to recalibrate, regalvanize their forces and try to restructure and come up, use Vandalic word to regroup and come up stronger, or this moment is going to break the CDC into further factions, we cannot tell. But what is unfolding now is the CDC has lost its iconic headquarters, not just the structure, but even down to the sycamore tree that was also a symbol that was synonymous with the CDC has also been brought down and uprooted. The fact that an excavator is breaking into the office of once President George Manneh Weah and political leader of the CDC is also a down moment. As to where next the excavator is going to go to, he has got between his teeth roofing sheet. He's on the phone again. Where next to?
statistics about Sir departure.
So he's receiving further instructions. Where next to?
The CDC in the election in also the Unity Party in the election. Sir Joseph walked away, recently departed the Congress for the they got.
So the police officers are taking their first phase. Where next? So making sure that that place is clear.
Those who think this is not an individual decision made by the owner of the property and that they are being somehow coerced. But those are thoughts of folks from the opposite.
So he moves to the next target, and we see where next he takes his machine. Clearing a path for himself. So we've been here for hours now. This all started about 5:30 a.m. this morning. So the septic tank is also being demolished.
Where they have a bus.
He's even got a tree, tree branch or so stuck at the back of the chain roller. A lot of cut electric wires. Water pipe also not spared. The extent shooting. So he continues to demolish whatever structures he's been instructed to demolish. The court sheriffs have carried out the eviction exercise and put Mr. Dempster in possession of his property, 4.23 acres of land here, and the demolition exercise still continues as the police and joint security officers are present. There you see a sheriff is still on the ground. They were brought in this morning by officers of the joint security. There is a huge crowd gathering outside as to where this yellow demolisher is going next, just leaving in its wake destruction upon destruction. Is he going back for the stage? Is he going for the goalpost? No. He's going for another coconut tree, is he? Yes. And another tree is down. can see the dust. So there was a crowd gathering right in front of the Cottington Graduate School that is opposite the headquarters of the CDC, but that crowd has been dispersed by officers of the Joint Security, whereas on the compound here, the excavator operator is still breaking down all structures that has been earmarked for demolition here. So we have LEC men on the pole now cutting wires because some of these wires are live wires. But while all of that is ongoing, he is still at it. Demolition after demolition. Blow after blow, destruction after destruction. All of what is being demolished is not needed on this property by Mr. Dempster. As to what the land will be used for after all of this, only the owner can answer that question. It's one step at a time. And this step is eviction, repossession, demolition. To all political parties, all institutions, and all individuals watching, this is just the downside of the law. When you lose a property dispute case and the owner decides to exercise all of his rights to have you evicted or removed, whatever properties that you have constructed on that piece of land, no matter how expensive they are, if the owner decides that he or she does not need those structures on their land, they will be raised down, as what we're seeing here. I think he's hit a septic tank or so. There is a very, very foul smell. As it is happening to the CDC today, all political institutions must move away from occupying temporary locations or start the act of acquiring permanent structures that will preserve their legacy. This is destruction up close and personal. personal effects of those who called this place home. Entertainment centers all housed in this one location. The police still well present, and electric wires are being cut. All of this, we've been told, will go. We see forensic team members from the Liberia National Police coming to investigate where the weapons were discovered. So these are the forensic investigators from the Liberia National Police. They are moving into this apartment where 2 guns were discovered and bullet rounds were also discovered. So forensic is now moving in and we are following the process. This is the apartment where 2 guns were retrieved from and a number of bullets also retrieved. At the other end, petrol bombs, 21 in number, were discovered. And I see the forensic team is coming towards the septic tank as to what they're going to investigate in the septic tank. We want to remain present. So the police are saying they want to enter into the ceiling of this apartment here where the 2 guns were retrieved from and the bullets were retrieved from. They want to enter into the ceiling and see what they can discover. This house has got solar panels as well. So that guy was seen carrying a wheelbarrow full of rice, and when he was questioned, said someone sent him for the rice and asked whether it belonged to him. He said no, so he's been handcuffed and taken away by officers of the joint security. So he was seen carrying a wheelbarrow full of rice. Yeah. So the forensic team of the LNP is still here. We'll be following up with their movement. But let's go back to see where the excavator is currently demolishing. It's drizzling. And all of these structures are being broken down. Thank you.
Implementing this. It's basically
So the drizzles and turning into downpour. It's beginning to rain here. So previously we had vehicles being allowed access onto this portion, but that has not stopped. We're looking to see. We're seeing one vehicle that is passing. Whether or not the police have reinstituted that mandate of diverting the traffic coming from town through Old Road and coming from Painesville through Catholic Junction and then back to the Totman Boulevard via Old Road. But this is what it is. This used to be the stage. The stage is gone. What remains is just debris upon debris. And it seems like the excavator operator is going back at it at the main building here on the grounds of the former headquarters of the CDC. So there is a brief pause. The operator disembarks the excavator. He goes to make a call, and once he gets back, we'll see what next to. But nothing has been spared, from trees to buildings to light poles to other structures. Nothing whatsoever has been spared. This light pole was removed from its stand. We have men of the LEC also here removing bumper cables and the rest. Other electric wires are being cut because some of them are live wires, and they've all been cut as well so as not to provide any sort of hazard. I'll remain at a safe distance. This is still an active demolition zone. I can just show you the extent of the rubble and destruction, bring you up close to what used to be the main headquarters building of the CDC. Remnants of a commode, pipes, couches, and the rest. Air conditioners all mashed. Now this is what remains of the Vocational Technical Institute, opened in honor of the legacy of the late District Number 9 Representative Mona Peno Yombla, and within minutes, an excavator turned all of this into what you're looking at. Thousands and thousands of dollars of destruction is what you're looking at. Not just the monetary value, but also a legacy of a party that called this ground home for close to 20 plus years. A ground that was systematically developed, structure after structure, remodeled into what the CDC had wanted it to look like. One of its modern projects is what now stands in ruins. It's no hurricane, it is no tornado, it is no natural disaster, but all what you're seeing is in the wake of the yellow Long King excavator, acting on the orders of the owner, Mr. Dempster. Eviction from this property on the orders of the court. Legal rigmarole to the Supreme Court, to the Silver Court, back to the Supreme Court, to the Silver Court. Eventually, Dempster was ruled as the owner of this property. The lower court then issued an eviction and repossession notice. The demolition aspect is solely by the request of the owner. Whatever he doesn't desire on his property, he clears. The LEC pickup is coming to collect all LEC assets, wires, and the like from this location. Trees have been downed, uprooted as well. Buildings demolished, air conditioners destroyed, commodes broken, roofing sheets torn all into. What stood as the headquarters is now being reduced to rubble. So all of this started at about 5 a.m. this morning. When we arrived, we saw officers of the Joint Security, mainly comprising officers of the Liberia National Police, stationing themselves just in front of the headquarters of the CDC, that is right in front of the Lone Star Cell MTN gate. And they barricaded the Catholic Junction area and the Old Road Junction. And at about 5:30, we did see that some guys were burning sticks and the rest forming a firewall before the main entrance of the CDC. And then the Joint Security headed in. They started by firing a few rounds of tear gas canisters into the compound and later started their systematic scaling of the wall and moving in from diverse angles of this particular property. They made their entry unopposed. Then they spread out, forming different formations and blocks, forming different protective walls all across this 4.23 acre of land. Next came the sheriff. The sheriffs announced themselves, the police announced themselves, and asked that whomever it is that was still on the compound should show themselves and exit. Few women from this side showed themselves, gathered few personal belongings, and departed. 4 gentlemen were arrested, and one said he was fast asleep and didn't hear the banging of the doors, and he was subsequently arrested and removed from the building. Another gentleman in the apartment that is just to where the demolisher is was in for hours, having been banged on the door and a lot of efforts made. He later came out and said he didn't hear the noise but was rather locked in by orders. Then the door was opened. Then the sheriff said they made a discovery. Bullet rounds were discovered. After that, 2 guns were equally discovered. One Winchester rifle and another a sniper look-alike rifle with a scope on top of it. So now the excavator is moving to the building where the guns were retrieved. And this building is said to be the apartment of the Secretary General of the CDC, Jefferson Koji. We cannot independently confirm that this is his apartment, but that is what has been said. So now the excavator is bringing down this particular apartment. So this is said to be the apartment of the Secretary General Jefferson Tambakoji. Again, we cannot independently confirm that, but that is what is being said. And this was the premises for which the 2 guns were recovered. The CDC will surely speak to that as well. But from what we saw, 2 guns were recovered from this particular apartment. One sniper-like rifle with a scope on top, and another a Winchester. Both weapons were in cases. Bullets were also retrieved. A revolver was also retrieved, including some substances believed to be drugs from another part of this compound. along with the roofing sheets. The solar panels are being brought down.
This tells us how deep destruction is. You know, just within 10-15 minutes, the entire building is almost down.
Yes,
Building
this place took months to have been constructed, and in minutes, in huge chunks, this excavator is bringing it down portion by portion.
Being carried out by the joint security here, the airport.
That apartment is all but gone. Just a small portion remaining, and the entire thing would have been razed down. So we've been informed that that was the apartment of Secretary General Jefferson Koji, whose portrait is also here lying in isolation. The operator takes a pause for a minute. So these pictures that you're looking at all came from offices occupied by top-ranking members of the CDC. So that was the Secretary General's office, and presumably that's where this picture fell from. there are other pictures and portraits of leaders of the CDC, and that is the chairman's office, what used to be the chairman's office. And at the back of the chairman's office is what was the office of the political leader, former President George Mane Weah. So this was the office of the Secretary General of the party. This was the office of the chairman of the CDC. And then on the other side, the office of the political leader, former President George Mane Weah. So the top-ranking members of the CDC occupy the upper level of this now demolished headquarters. So that apartment is gone. Seemingly his job there is done, and he's moving to the next area where he can continue this demolition. He's receiving another call, and where is he headed to next? He's now on the completion of this area. He's now going for the latrines. Nothing is being spared. The intellectual forum is also down. It's moving further in to bring down that final portion of wall. So from what I can see, the mandate of this operator is to bring down every structure that is situated on this land. To bring down every structure that is situated on this land, whether the former headquarters, the building, the intellectual center, the vocational school, what used to be the apartment of the Secretary General, as we've been informed, is also gone. And he started from the main entrance, from the arc. That was the first thing that he brought down. You can see the steam bellowing from the exhaust, the heat, the sheer energy from this very, very huge machine. He's been at it for hours now. The sun is not coming up, and this is the scene from what is now the former headquarters of the Congress for Democratic Change. Mr. Dempster has been put in possession of his property by the court. The eviction carried out by the sheriffs with protection from the police. The demolition exercise being carried on by the yellow machine operator, the excavator operator, on the orders of the owner. What he doesn't want is being removed. So the operator is in conversation with officers of the LNP as to whether he's done with his demolition. We are yet to see, but I see the low berth that brought the excavator is reversing into the compound. As to whether or not it is going to take this machine away, we are watching to see. All of this started at about 5:30 a.m. this morning, when the joint security, comprising mainly of officers of the LNP, provided close and safe corridor for sheriffs from the court to execute an eviction notice, an eviction order from the court. And then the police made their entry, made their announcement that whomever it is that was on the compound should leave, and some heeded to that. They were unopposed except for elements or pockets of elements who started with a fire being set ablaze just before the main entrance. And after the police moved in, they called on the fire service to quench the flame that was blazing, the fire that was set ablaze just before the main entrance. Later, we saw this excavator being brought in, and the order was start with the arc. the arc that had largely engraved on it CDC was brought down with just one push of this excavator. Next, he turned his attention to the Muna Pena Vocational and Technical Institute. This is what remains of this structure. So with the low bed being brought in, it seems like this excavator's job is done here and it is departing, with the sounds being made by the chain rollers. That is the loudest noise you can hear. Aside from that, there are those who are taking out whatever valuables they can salvage from this rubble of destruction. That is what we're looking at. The excavator broke this structure down to what is now remnants of it, then moved to the stage and broke almost the entire stage down. Next was the building that housed the headquarters, starting from the Secretary General's office to the party chairman's office to the political leader's office. They were all broken down. Just a minute or a small remnant of the headquarters of the CDC is still left standing. As to whether the excavator will return at a later time, we will see. But he's removing some of the huge portion of the gate pillar from there and making his way. He then turned his attentions to the sycamore trees, bringing them down one after the other, not just breaking their branches, but uprooting them as well from the very earth that they stood firm in. He uprooted each sycamore tree as if they didn't stand a chance against the heavy and strong nature of his machine. As you can see, this is what stands, or what is now lying down, of the sycamore tree. This is what remains of the sycamore tree. Clearing his path. Clearing his path. When this machine arrived, these were all standing structures. As it's leaving, this is the destruction in its wake. August 23rd, 2025. Merchandise all brought outside on the ground. From phone packs to t-shirts, nothing has been spared. Is he going back for another round? So you have crews from the LEC also here making sure they take away LEC assets, electric wires and the rest, bumper cables. This building was opened in 2022. The Mona Penal Vocational Technical Institute. With less than under 3 years, it is reduced to this. Seems like he still has got some unfinished work. Apparently, someone is not happy with what is still left standing, and as this machine was seemingly making its way to the exit, it has been ordered to return and continue this wave and wave of destruction. Clearing a path for himself, this excavator operator. It's moving. For those makeshift structures, it's just one swing of that excavator front end and it's gone. Look at the sheer magnitude of debris that has been left in the wake of this excavator for these makeshift structures. One swipe and they're gone. These structures are mainly made of roofing sheets, zinc, and plywood. They're all gone. No resistance whatsoever. Now he's moving to this building, bringing that down portion by portion. Clearing a path for himself. The yellow demolisher. There goes that portion of that building. This excavator is churning away, eating away, and turning buildings into rubbles. Light work of what is in its path. He's moving to another portion to reposition himself and takes on the other portion of this building.
I have blowing fish, so I do it.
The operator is on another call, as he has been since this exercise began this morning. After that brief pause comes another heavy noise of demolition. Creating room to move again. For many, this was not just a party headquarters for political purposes. For many, they called this home, and it is being demolished. When we arrived, we saw mattresses and other home utensils. This entire roof goes off. The operator is moving in to what is the final portion of this building. Crushing chairs. Look at that stockpile of chairs. He's left with the last bit of this particular structure, and this will be done. We saw a lot of rooms being housed in this place, some business centers and the rest. So the operator takes a call and then moves next. He is moving that last bit. This is absolute brute force. These structures stand no chance, and he's creating a path to get out. He's now creating a path to ride on and get out, having raised down this entire structure. That is similar. The job at this particular structure is done. The yellow demolisher moves on. Where next to, we can only but follow. Taking along debris in his train track. Removing them. The operator disembarks to see what the issues are. Let's see how he's going to handle that. Yeah. What is it? Oh. Y'all went for it? So while all this is ongoing, 2 police officers have been disrobed for allegedly stealing wigs from a video that exposed them. The police just held a press conference, and those 2 officers have since been disrobed, happening right here on the ground as the eviction exercise is ongoing. Those 2 officers you can see in the video were putting wigs in their uniforms. Apparently, they wanted to kill somebody over 24 kids. So they took wig caps and they were subsequently disrobed. The police just had a press conference and will bring you more information about that as well. So the yellow demolisher has been faced with some issues. Steel rods catching the chain track. He's trying to maneuver his way out. All right, folks, I have to leave it here for the rest of the crew to continue on this coverage. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Diamond Slanger. We remain posted here, but I have to bid you farewell for now. Thank you, and bye-bye.